Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Whether you're tuning in on the radio dial here in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM, we welcome you all back to our program. Those joining us through our online affiliates around the world, we're glad to have all of you with us, including our iHeartRadio family. We're glad that you all could join us as well. We're excited to welcome the poet queen, Joanne Kenzy, to our program today to talk to us not only about her love of poetry and history, but how they've been able to come together in her new book called Excursions of the Mind, Stories Take Flight. We'll talk to Joanne about the writing of the book, what it's been like for her to see the response, and she will be actually sharing some of the selections from the book, some of my personal favorites, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. If you're just not hearing about the book, Excursions of the Mind, we'll tell you at the end of our segment how you can be able to get the book for yourself. But Joanne, hello to you and welcome to the program.
Thank you, and good morning to you all.
Well, look, I am so excited to be able to speak with you. Congratulations to you, first of all, on the book. Joanne, what has it been like for you to not only have had this love of poetry, but now to share them with the world in your book?
Well, I have to say that is truly a miracle here. I was working 54 years full-time without many times off, and needless to say, when I was home in those first weeks, I didn't know what to do with myself. And so it was one day when I was kind of climbing the walls and not fit to live with, I thought, well, I'll go into the other room where we have a collection of books on the shelf, okay? And I went in there and I pulled a book off the shelf to read. Now, the subject of the book was what to do with yourself when you don't know what to do with yourself. I said, my gosh, this is like a miracle. And so I read what this guy had to say, and I do not remember today what the name of that book was or even the author's name, but he said, take something you have an inkling for, and just the least little bit of interest in, and then commit to 10 minutes a day to working on it. So I remember reading a wonderful book about the birth of the waltz, and I thought, all right, I'm going to see if I can write a 3-act musical on that book. And so I did. Now, that is in a little brown bag in my house. I have not really finished it off or anything. But then I ran into a woman at church, and she says, have you ever thought about joining a little writers group? And that's when the poetry started. And it just was pouring and pouring and pouring out and stuff. Then I had a bout with cancer in between, and that took six months out of my life, which I was hardly sick a day, which is kind of something for having leukemia. And so I was writing, and I've got about 400 pieces. There are 47 in my book, but I've got another 200 ready to go.
Wow. Joanne, I'm so glad you shared that story, because there are going to be people who are listening to this conversation, not only in my home state of Mississippi, but around the country and even around the world, who have been in that place where they feel as though they don't know what to do with their gifts. I think what you have done with this book, Excursions of the Mind, I think reminds them of the importance of sharing. Was that one of the most proudest moments of you to be able to hold the book for yourself?
Repeat that line?
Sure. Was that one of the most proudest moments for you to actually hold the book in your hand?
Well, it's wonderful because it's so beautiful in the way the artist downloaded the photos all from Shutterstock, by the way, and I think they bring out all the words, and people who open up the book say, "Huh, it's just really gorgeous." And some of the people that I have met that work with people with dementia and Alzheimer's, they're sharing the book with patients that they're working in, and they're getting responses on them because of the reminiscent values throughout the book. And then when those people see the color and hear the words, they seem to relate too, which they don't relate too much. And
right.
and by the way, I just had a 78th birthday yesterday. And so there I am sitting. If I could share a little bit about a poem I wrote recently called Midnight Train.
Sure.
Sitting in slippers, pondering riddles of life, wondering what gout is about, finding my home when I do go out. My finest china is used every day. Dispensable goods are given away. Remembering trips to unknown places, a game of poker and winning with aces. Tonight I wait in the rain, joining old folks on a midnight train. A train that is bound for a new destiny on a track through a land I cannot see.
Wow, that is great. And I'm so glad you shared that, Joanne, because it really ties in so well with the book, with the poems in the book, which are not only, I think, a combination of history, but also reflection of life. I had mentioned to you before we began this segment 3 poems that I believe, are probably some of my favorites in the book that I believe our audience will appreciate. That poem you just read reminds me of the first one, Path of Life. I mean, talk to us about that poem and how that poem came about for you, Joanne.
Well, it's hard for me to remember exactly where these thoughts come from. And then I read a lot and I research words that come into my head, and I'll wake up with a line kind of in my thoughts, and then I'll look to see what people think about that thought. And by the time I've made about 6 pages of notes, then I sit there and I thumb through all the notes, and I end up with what I end up with, and it takes me about 2 days. And but I'd be happy to read that one for you, called Paths of Life.
Sure, please.
It is interesting where life does lead. Paths are not straight, oh no indeed. We wander through the forest green, those days never again to be seen. Sweet blooming flowers we pick along the way, stopping to rest at the end of the day. We sing like no one's listening, all the while the wind is whistling. We climb to the top of the hill, then a gust of wind issues a chill. Spring slides into summer, autumn into winter too. We dance like no one's watching, like most children are apt to do. We have reached the mountaintop. The path will end. We have to stop. When we look back to where we have been, we now see that forest below, winds whipping through the leaves of life, helping us see what we did not know.
I have to tell you why I enjoyed this poem so much, Joanne, and then I can have you talk about what it means for you. I mean, I think so many times as we're going through our lives, we never know where any particular chapter may take us. But the reflection, I think, is so important for us. As you kind of reflect on your life the past 78 years, what has that been like for you to reflect on the journey that you've been on the path you've been on, and the people you've been able to meet on that path?
Well, needless to say, I have met many, many, many people. I was born in North Dakota, and I lived in a town that has probably a population of 3. And I was 16 years old when I then moved to Los Angeles. And needless to say, the difference was just dramatic. And then I lived all of those years and working in different places. And I can remember riding on the elevator with actors and actresses and living in the San Fernando Valley where they were buzzing around, and I've met a whole bunch and very interesting people along the way, and life just goes so fast. It is just amazing how you can look back and say, where did that 10 years go? Where did it go?
Right.
It goes so fast.
And I think, too, Joanne, wouldn't you agree that it also reminds us of the importance of not wasting it, of not wasting each and every day that we have?
Oh, absolutely. You cannot do enough, and always have a plan and pick your way very, very carefully, because some things you can't undo. You just have to walk really bravely around them and stuff, because we all make mistakes and bad choices.
For sure. I think that is so true. That's something all of us can relate to. Speaking of choices, that's a great segue to our next poem. But I want to say, for those who are just tuning in, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. We're excited to welcome the poet queen, Joanne Kenzy, to our program today. Joanne's the author of the book called EXCURSIONS of the Mind, Stories Take Flight. We've been talking with her not only about what it was like for her to go from having hundreds of poems to now compiling a few dozen of them into this book, and now to be able to share them with the world. We're going to tell you at the end of our segment how you can be able to get the book for yourself. Let's talk about the poem Choices. Joanne, would you mind sharing that with us and we talk about it?
Yeah, it is kind of the rules of living, and it goes like this. You choose your paths to destiny, always a state of mind with a choice. Your choice determines your actions. Your actions are fed by your inner voice. Some decisions will shrink the soul. Mortal moments and minutes exist. Other people can poison your day. Many voices will daily persist. Beneath the surface, we are all the same. The light and dark resides within. Our job on earth, as we step forth, is to strive to live free from sin. You stand in the truth of your journey. Hundreds of choices are made every day. Consequences come with those choices. Wise ones make good things lean your way. It is a climb to the mountaintop, daily climbing step by step. A successful life you will win or lose. The choice is there, but you must choose.
Yeah. There's a reason why this one stuck out to me, Joanne. For one, I think it reminds us of the importance of the choices that we make, but also that we can't rely on other people to be able to make choices for us in life. I love that stanza that says, you stand in the truth of your journey. Hundreds of choices are made every day. When you kind of reflect on that, how has that helped you in looking at your life?
Well, needless to say, I'm very, very aware of choices that are made, and how when you select some of these things, you cannot undo them, and you have to live with them. And if you make too many and they pile up, you end up at Folsom Prison or something, because things can get that rotten. In fact, I have sent that piece of poetry for their counseling thing over at Folsom Prison, because some people don't really realize about how they think and how that think causes the action that we do. And some of those actions you cannot undo.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's a great reminder for us all. I mentioned earlier, Joanne, about your love of history. It comes across in this book as well. Have you found that poetry is that perfect marriage for you of not only your love of words, but also your love of history as well?
Well, history, of course, is just, it's so exciting. I was hoping that people who would read my words that lean to that world of history, that they see a sampling, and then they would go and really get into the studies that are offered about what it was to live at that time. And there's a great pleasure in doing that. And the words that I have are so few, but they could really brighten somebody's world with all this interesting stuff that people have lived before us.
Right, right. I think that's it, and I think that is the power, again, of history for sure. And also another thing that we sometimes take for granted, and we are always glad to have them. I know I have great ones in my life, and that is friendship. There's a great poem you have in the book on page 86, 87, and the graphic for this is beautiful, Joanne, about friend. If you don't mind, if you read that one and we talk a little bit about it.
Okay. It is called Friend. You're in the shadows. You're in the shine. You're very real. You're a friend of mine. You touch my wounds with warm, tender hands. You share my pain with nothing to gain. By chance we met. By choice we are friends, sharing our feelings, daring to be the best reflections that a mirror can see. You're a road to the future. You're a tie to the past. When life's story comes to an end, I will be thankful that you are my friend.
Yeah. And I think that, for those of us who are privileged enough to have someone like that, we all hear about friends to the end. What does your friendship mean to you? You've even told us in this conversation, Joanne, you've gone through some challenges in your life. You've had difficulties. What has friendship meant to you in your life?
Well, I do know that you treasure the friends you have, and there are few. And so hold on to the two you might gain. They're wonderful. Yeah, but sure. they don't come by the thousands.
Right. I think that is it. I love that stanza that says, by chance we met, by choice we are friends. Again, that word choice there, sharing our feelings, daring to be the best reflections that a mirror can be. And I think that is the best thing for us, for sure. I think, when people read this book, Joanne, and they're able to take in your words, take in the beautiful illustrations, I think it will remind them not only of life and how important it is to appreciate it, but also the importance of valuing life. Is that one of the things, Joanne, that you hope people do take away the book, the importance of enjoying aspects of their life?
Yeah, I certainly do. And one of the stories in there, you'll see a picture down in the corner, and it's got the piano with the flames on it. Well, that's about Jerry Lee Lewis, and I know that he's not far from where you are. And I listened to a YouTube interview of him, and it sounded like he had some remorse there. And so I was inspired to write what I wrote, and then I've sent that to Jerry Lee Lewis in Nesbitt, Mississippi. And I've gotten a whole big package back from him saying how much he loves the poetry. And so I'm really blessed there, too, because, you don't expect always to get a response, but there was one. And the same is with Neil Diamond, and I've written poetry in his honor, and the same with Roy Orbison, and because they have such beautiful work. And so
I'm busy, and I'm keeping on. That's for sure. And I expect that I will have a second book out probably by next year.
Okay. Well, something for us definitely be able to look forward to. But in the meantime, we invite you to get the Poets Queen's book now that's out. It's called Excursions of the Mind. Stories Take Flight. You can go to Joanne's website, which is www.thepoetqueen.com. Again, that's www.thepoetqueen.com. There you can be able to order the book for yourself. It's a beautiful book. You really will appreciate this. We're going to take a picture with me holding it from my website at cyruswebb.com, so make sure you'll look for that along with my review of the book. And Joanne, thank you so much for sharing time with us today. I really appreciate you sharing your love of words with the world, and looking forward to our next conversation together.
Absolutely. I can't wait to do it either, because I love to express these thoughts. I just love it.
Well, thank you so much for that. Well, we're glad we had the opportunity to do it here, and we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. If you all came in late and missed part of the conversation with Joanne, don't worry. Thanks to our online friends, you all can catch the replay right after we go off the air. The link is already available through our social media sites, so head over to Facebook.com/CyrusWebb or go to Twitter.com/CyrusWebb. If you click on the link there, you can listen to the show completely for free and share it with your friends from there, too. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying, as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Make sure you take out time to enjoy some good music as well as a great book. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. You all make it a great one.